Hello and welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. It's spooky season, the one time of the year when the monsters take centre stage. So what better way to celebrate than to briefly run down my top 7 monsters for the granddaddy of the modern dungeon crawler, HeroQuest. As always, when I compile these lists, there are rules. Firstly, I can make selections based on any criteria. For example, how useful the monsters are, how interesting they are, or how cool their designs are. But I don't tend to use house rules, homebrew, and third-party content, so my considerations are only based on official material and rules. Secondly, I can make selections only from modern HeroQuest, that is, the edition published by Avalon Hill. No picking Vermeers, no matter how much I want to. And finally, no named villains. We all like the Witchlord, but he's not in the running for this list. Perhaps there will be another list for him in the future. And of course we have to remember, all top X lists are a sham, they mean nothing, but feel free to tell me why I'm wrong in the comments anyway. Number 7. Dread Warriors. I knew I wanted to put Dread Warriors on the list, but wasn't really sure where they should go, so they sneak in at the bottom in 7th place. When I first started playing HeroQuest back in 1989, I took on the role of a hero, and I always had a healthy respect and fear for the armour-clad Chaos Warriors. They had such a cool design, and even though they still only had a single body point, like every other monster in the European edition of the game, they were still a bit more of a challenge, especially in groups. Nowadays, the Chaos label has been replaced with the slightly less cool Dread, but the new version of these mighty warriors are still a threatening presence. The new designs are suitably chunky with awesome shields, and there is something very pleasing about the size of a Dread Warrior. They are an imposing threat, and one of the first things new HeroQuest players will meet that will stop them in their tracks and make them think, this isn't going to be as easy to handle as those orcs were. And yes, they are vanilla enemies with no special abilities to speak of, but now I play as Zargon, I have a whole new respect for their ability to pummel heroes to death with their maces. Number 6. The Blightcrawler. From a classic baddie to one of the newest enemies. At number 6, we have the Blightcrawler from the Jungles of Delthrak expansion. This ugly arachnid made it onto the list for a whole host of reasons, not least because it was HeroQuest's first giant spider. I feel there are certain types of enemies that are staples of the genre, dragons, goblins, skeletons, and so on. For me, giant spiders, and to a lesser extent giant rats, are on that list, and it is somewhat surprising that, much like with dragons, it took us 35 years to get some in HeroQuest. As far as I'm concerned, until this 8-legged freak scuttled onto our tables, HeroQuest just wasn't complete. There was no way I wasn't going to include him in my list. And it helps that the Blightcrawler is represented with an awesome oversized miniature that takes up 2 spaces, making it a truly threatening presence when Zargon drops one on the board. As with all large enemies, the Blightcrawler can attack diagonally, which means the pesky wizard can't safely poke at it with a staff. Furthermore, it has an excellent selection of advanced rules. It is agile, which means it can ignore hindering terrain, furniture, and heroes when moving. It's also venomous, which means if it inflicts damage, the target is paralysed for 1 turn unless they can resist the effects by rolling 5 or more on a single movement dice. Best of all, the Blightcrawler can spawn baby spiders. These nasty little things will crawl all over the heroes, slowly sapping their body points. They are not to be underestimated and add a lot of tension to battles with a giant spider. Number 5. Giant Ape. I'm not going to lie, the giant ape makes the cut pretty much entirely because it's a giant ape. When it comes to my favourite real-life creatures, dogs, wolves, monkeys, apes and tortoises are all at the very top of the list, and I just thought it was so much fun to have a big gorilla running around in the jungles of Delthrak. It's such a neat concept, a peaceful giant driven mad by the corrupting power of dread, and the miniature is fantastic. As with the Blightcrawler, it fills 2 spaces, giving it an incredible reach that's difficult to avoid. Furthermore, it has the Agile ability, which helps to reduce issues with bottlenecks and gives Zargon a chance to leap over bodyguards to pummel weaker heroes like the Wizard. Number 4. Spectres. As I'm a huge horror fan, it's not much of a surprise to see something spooky make the cut. As much as I love enemies like the mummies and zombies, especially the original 89 zombies which are so beautifully sculpted, my number 4 slot on this list goes to the spectres from Rise of the Dreadmoon. The miniatures are great, full of amazing character thanks to the flowing hair and clothes. I'm not the biggest fan of translucent miniatures, but as I have proved right here on the channel, those translucent plastics paint up just fine, so if I ever get around to painting all of my HeroQuest stuff, it shouldn't be a problem. I think ghosts are a really handy enemy to have around, especially if you are creating your own narrative quests. You can use them as spirit guardians in tombs, elemental enemies, the souls of a previously fallen hero that will guide the party to safety, an NPC that could help or hinder things depending on how heroes react, and so much more. If you are making a haunted house adventure for Halloween, these are a must. Spectres are an especially good addition to the game as, like many other new enemies, they have some interesting special abilities, including abilities that help to prevent heroes from creating bottlenecks. As well as being undead and having 0 mind points, making them immune to some spells but weak to holy water, they are also our first ethereal foes. Ethereal enemies can move through heroes' walls and solid objects. Furthermore, when attacking ethereal monsters, unless a hero uses a magic weapon or spell, only a black skull counts as a hit, which means heroes only have a 1 in 6 chance of inflicting damage with each dice thrown. Finally, spectres can cast the Channel Dread spell, which is a great way to inflict damage on high armor heroes. Overall, I think ghosts are a really strong thematic choice, suitable for a wide range of environments and encounters, and these have solid mechanisms and good sculpts. Winning all round really. Number 3. Skeletons. I doubt too many people will be surprised to see skeletons on my list. Honestly, the skeletons, mummies and zombies all could have made the cut, especially as they are a core component of one of my favourite HeroQuest expansions, Return of the Witchlord. However, as a kid I was equal parts amazed and terrified by these skeletons in the movie Jason and the Argonauts, brought to unnatural unlife by the masterful skills of stop-motion maestro Ray Harryhausen. It was watching films like Jason and the Argonauts, Clash of the Titans, and The Golden Voyage of Sinbad that instilled in me a love of fantasy, adventure, and mythology that continues to this day. Reanimated skeletons exist in the Venn diagram where fantasy overlaps horror, and that is a heady mix for me. It's little wonder that as a child, once I had built my goblin army for Warhammer Fantasy Battle, I moved on to create a huge host of the undead. And at the centre of that army, a massive block of skeletons bearing scythes, inspired by HeroQuest's original skeleton and built from one of the greatest plastic sets Games Workshop ever made, the Skeleton Army Box. So yes, even though the modern iteration of the skeletons in HeroQuest don't look as cool, and their scythes being sharpened on the wrong side is an almost unforgivable mistake on the part of the sculptors, skeletons do land at the number 3 slot on my list. True enough, nostalgia and bias play a strong part in that, but skeletons are also well up the list because of the newer options we have for them. They have always been a good choice for mobs in tombs, as they are not too tough but are immune to some spells that could otherwise disrupt a large group of enemies, but additionally, you can give them the advanced rules from the app that lets them attack diagonally, or you can switch out their regular scythes for bows by using the skeleton archers from Jungles of Delthrak and Against the Ogre Horde. This breathes fresh life, or indeed death, into expansions like Return of the Witchlord, which greatly benefit from the added enemy variety. Number 2. Giant Wolves. The Giant Wolves appear in Mage of the Mirror and easily snag the number 2 slot on my list. As I've already mentioned, wolves are one of my favourite animals. With a last name like Outlaw, I should have a certain affinity with the wolf after all, but there are lots of other reasons to like them. For a start, they are terrifying. With an attack of 6 dice, 3 defend dice, and 5 body points, they pack a punch and they can take one too. They are also large monsters, which means they can attack diagonally, and they are wicked fast with a movement of 9, making it hard to outrun them. Best of all, Mage of the Mirror includes all the rules for running giant wolves as werewolves, complete with the ability to pass the curse on to heroes. Some viewers may be aware I am a huge fan of werewolves, and I am on board with any excuse to squeeze them into a game. And so we come to the number 1 spot, but before I reveal my pick, I thought I would briefly run through some of the near misses. Those monsters that almost broke into the top 7, but were muscled out by stronger selections. First are the polar war bears from the Frozen Horror. What's not to love about armor-clad polar bears with clubs? I love the bears because they are perfectly thematic, and after dungeon of orcs, goblins and the undead, they felt fresh and, pun intended, cool. The big issue with them is their double attack rule. It makes them incredibly powerful and more than capable of hammering unwary heroes into little bits of bone and blood. So you have to employ them with caution, and sometimes Zargon may need to purposefully go a little easy on the heroes if they aren't prepared for the world of pain they have just entered. My second near miss are the raptors from Jungles of Delthrak. I love dinosaurs, and it is fun to have a couple running around the place, even though I do see why some people have said they don't really feel right for HeroQuest. The raptors are clever tacticians, which means they can move before and after attacking, and they also gain a bonus attack dice when attacking heroes who are adjacent or diagonally adjacent to another monster. I think that's a lovely reflection of the ambush tactics of the raptors. They are very clever girls. My inner child would definitely have added them to the list, but they lose points for a miniature design that overhangs adjacent spaces and makes it a bit awkward to place other miniatures around them. Finally, there are the Magus Guards from Rise of the Dreadmoon. Mage Knights are cool, and the miniatures for these have a strong look. I like the lore behind them as it appears in Rise of the Dreadmoon, and it's nice to have a different elf enemy that you could perhaps drop into Mage of the Mirror to mix things up a bit. But I'm not sold on their implementation in terms of rules and special abilities, which is something I did discuss in some length in my Rise of the Dreadmoon videos. So for that reason, and because there were so many other picks, they just missed out on a spot. And so, finally, we come to my number 1 choice, which probably comes as little surprise. It's the orcs and goblins. And yes, I am cheating by combining them in a single pick, I don't care. I started playing Warhammer Fantasy Battle as a greenskin general, and I have been a greenskin at heart ever since. They are a classic enemy, and they just work really well for the HeroQuest narrative. They are the rank and file of Zargon's forces, the lackeys that take on every dirty job. But they also occasionally break out into their own clans to cause their own brand of mischief. Orcs are weak enough to be presented in hordes, but strong enough that if you don't keep their numbers under control, they can start to hurt you. And now, thanks to Against the Ogre Horde, you can run orcs with bows as well as hand weapons. Goblins are even better. You can swarm rooms with them to annoy heroes, to slow them down, to nibble away at their body points before presenting them with more robust challenges. They are the perfect servants, ideal sentries, and if you want a set piece where an army of foes hunts the heroes, goblins are the way to go. They too now have archer variants available in Against the Ogre Horde and Jungles of Delthrak, plus there is a special rule in the app that lets them split their movement, turning them into sneaky hit and run experts. They really are good value, and they work well within the framework of so many narratives. I hear that some orcs even dress up as pirates and sing jaunty tunes. But, I don't know, that sounds a bit silly. And there we have it, my top 7 enemies in HeroQuest, at least until I change my mind. Let me know your top picks in the comments, because that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.